Have you ever looked at someone else's relationship from the outside and wondered, why on earth are they still with them? Or maybe you've looked in the mirror, asked yourself that exact same question, and felt a wave of guilt or confusion because you just couldn't bring yourself to walk away. It's easy for anyone standing on the outside looking in to say, if someone treats you badly, just leave. It sounds so simple. It sounds like basic logic. But if you've ever actually been in that position, you know that leaving a toxic relationship is almost never a matter of simple logic. It's messy, confusing, emotional, and sometimes downright terrifying. Before we start, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss our new videos on relationships, psychology, and real life. Now, let's talk about what is really going on beneath the surface. The truth is, people don't stay in toxic relationships because they are foolish or weak. They stay because of powerful psychological mechanisms, emotional habits, and deeply rooted fears that can trap even the smartest, strongest person. To understand why people stay, we first have to bust a major myth. Most people assume that toxic relationships are terrible all the time. They imagine endless screaming matches, constant disrespect, and coldness 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If that were true, leaving would actually be pretty easy. Almost anyone would walk away if every single day was pure misery. But that's not how toxic relationships usually work. They operate on something psychologists call intermittent reinforcement. In plain words, it's a roller coaster of highs and lows. Think of a slot machine in a casino. If you put money into a machine and it never paid out a single cent, you would walk away after 2 minutes. But if it occasionally gives you a win, your brain stays hooked. You keep pulling the lever because you remember that feeling of winning, and you keep hoping the next try will bring it back. That cycle creates a powerful psychological hook, making it incredibly difficult to break free. This cycle eventually creates what is known as a trauma bond. A trauma bond happens when intense affection is mixed with fear, stress, or emotional pain. Over time, the person causing you pain also becomes the only person you look to for comfort. It sounds counterintuitive, but when someone creates an atmosphere of stress and then occasionally offers warmth, your nervous system gets wired to crave that warmth from them specifically. You start feeling like you need the very person who is hurting you just to feel okay again. This obviates your thought about toxic relationships. Another huge reason people stay is something called the sunk cost fallacy. This is a mental trap we fall into when we've invested a lot of time, energy, or money into something. Instead of focusing on what is happening right now, we focus on everything we've already put into the relationship. You might tell yourself, I've already spent 4 years with this person, or we've built a life together, we have shared friends, I can't just throw all of that away. The thought of walking away feels like admitting that all those years were wasted. So instead of cutting your losses and protecting your future, you double down. You keep investing more time and more emotional energy, hoping that if you just give it a little longer, things will turn back around and all your past effort will finally pay off. Along with the sunk cost fallacy comes the ghost of the past. In almost every toxic relationship, things started out amazing. In the beginning, your partner might have been attentive, kind, affectionate, and deeply caring. They made you feel special and safe. That early version of the relationship sets a benchmark in your mind. When the relationship turns sour, you don't usually compare your life to how bad things are today. Instead, you compare today to those golden early months. You tell yourself, I know who they really are inside. If I can just be a little more patient, a little more understanding, or fix my own flaws, that wonderful person from the beginning will come back. You end up falling in love with potential and memories rather than the reality standing right in front of you. Then there is the slow, quiet erosion of self-esteem and the magic of gaslighting. Toxic dynamics rarely start with extreme behavior on day one. They start small. A subtle jab disguised as a joke, a minor piece of criticism about how you dress or speak, a tiny twist of the truth during an argument. Over months or years, these small moments add up. If someone repeatedly tells you, directly or indirectly, that you are too sensitive, that you remember things wrong, that you are hard to love, or that no one else would put up with you, you eventually start believing it.
Your inner voice gets quiet. You stop trusting your own instincts. You look at a toxic situation and think, maybe it really is my fault. Maybe I'm demanding too much. Maybe I'm the problem here. Gaslighting distorts your perception of reality until you feel like you're standing on shaky ground. When you don't trust your own mind, taking a huge, life-changing step like breaking up feels completely overwhelming. You simply don't have the confidence left to make that call. We also have to talk about what we learned about love when we were growing up. For many people, toxic relationships feel oddly comfortable because they mirror the environment they experienced as children. If you grew up in a household where love was unpredictable, where you had to walk on eggshells, or where affection had to be earned through self-sacrifice, that dynamic feels normal to you.
Your brain naturally gravitates toward what is familiar, even if what is familiar is unhealthy. Safe, healthy, calm love might actually feel boring or suspicious to someone who grew up in chaos. If peaceful love feels unfamiliar, a person might unconsciously stay in a dramatic, painful relationship because, on a deep subconscious level, that high-stress dynamic feels like home. Fear of the unknown is another massive barrier. As human beings, we're wired to prefer predictable pain over unpredictable change. Even when a relationship is toxic, it is familiar. You know what to expect when you wake up. You know the arguments, you know the routine, you know the bad days. Stepping away from that means stepping into total uncertainty. What will my life look like? Will I be lonely forever? Will I manage financially? What will my friends and family think? Where will I live? The mind often fills in those empty spaces of the unknown with worst-case scenarios. The fear of being completely alone or starting over from scratch can feel much scarier than living with the familiar unhappiness you already know how to survive. Isolation also plays a huge role, and it often happens so gradually that you don't even notice it. Toxic partners, whether intentionally or unintentionally, often push other people out of your life. It might happen through subtle complaints whenever you spend time with your friends, or by creating drama during family gatherings until you just stop inviting anyone over to avoid the headache. Over time, your social circle shrinks. You talk to your old friends less, you stop sharing what's really going on in your life because you feel embarrassed or exhausted. Before you realize it, your partner has become your primary or only source of support. When you finally reach a point where you want to leave, you look around and feel completely alone. You feel like you have no safety net, no one to stay with, and no one to talk to, which makes stepping out of the relationship feel almost impossible. Beyond emotional and psychological barriers, there are very real, practical obstacles. Financial dependence is a huge reason why people stay in situations they want to escape. If you share a bank account, if your partner controls the household income, if your name isn't on the lease, or if you've been out of the workforce for years, leaving isn't just an emotional decision, it's a survival crisis. Add kids, pets, shared mortgages, or legal ties into the mix, and the logistical nightmare of leaving becomes overwhelming. Sometimes people aren't staying because they want to. They're staying because they literally don't see a clear, safe path to support themselves standardly tomorrow morning if they walk out the door today. Finally, there is the fixer mentality and excessive empathy. Many people stay in toxic relationships because they genuinely care deeply about their partner's well-being. They see their partner's unhealed trauma, their struggles, their deep insecurities, and their pain. They tell themselves, if I leave, who will help them? They need me. I can't abandon them when they're hurting. This comes from a good place, a place of empathy and kindness, but in a toxic dynamic, it becomes a trap. You end up pouring all your energy into trying to heal someone who isn't doing the work to heal themselves. You sacrifice your own emotional safety, your self-respect, and your peace of mind in an attempt to save someone else from their own internal struggles. But the truth is, you cannot heal someone at the expense of destroying yourself.
When you put all these pieces together, the dopamine roller coaster, the trauma bonding, the sunk cost fallacy, the loss of self-confidence, the fear of being alone, the isolation, and the practical challenges, it becomes very clear why walking away isn't easy. It's not just a matter of waking up one day and deciding to pack a bag. It is a long, difficult process of untangling your mind, your emotions, and your practical life from someone else. If you're listening to this right now and you recognize yourself in these words, know this: feeling stuck does not mean you are weak, and it does not mean you are failing. It simply means you are caught in a very real, very powerful dynamic that millions of human beings struggle with every day. Recognizing these patterns is always the very first step toward change. You don't have to figure everything out today, and you don't have to fix everything overnight, but giving yourself permission to see the situation clearly, without judgment or self-blame, is where true strength starts. You deserve a relationship that gives you peace, safety, and consistent respect, not a bond built on anxiety, breadcrumbs of affection, and constant second-guessing. Thank you so much for watching and listening today. If this video resonated with you or helped you understand your own feelings a little bit better, please give it a like, drop a comment down below to share your thoughts, and subscribe to join our community. Take care of yourself, and we'll see you in the next video.